morning. Good to see you. Welcome all. I see many people are joining. And more people are coming in. So let's wait a bit so that everyone can join in. You're automatically muted, so you cannot talk, but maybe you can put a thumbs up or write in the chat if you're here. It's nice to see so many participants. We already have more than 100 people in here. That's great. Oh, that's many thumbs up. Great to see. Okay. It's 1 minute past 9:30 at least here in the Netherlands. Probably in your place, maybe 1 hour earlier, 1 hour later, or the same time. But I would say let's get started. Yeah. So welcome everyone. Very nice seeing you, having you here in this impact webinar. This is number 2. Last week we had another webinar. I'll come to that very soon. But today we'll be talking about defining impact before application. Well, who is doing this webinar? Let me introduce myself first. My name is Karin Roosendaal. I work for MDF Training Consultancy. We're a company that works on impact. Our motto is empowering people, creating impact. And we've been asked by Erasmus Plus to host these webinars. And I don't do this alone. I do this together with my colleague, Sam.
Pleased to meet you. And hope you will have a good webinar.
From Erasmus Plus, we have a colleague, Bas Wijziegel here. Bas, can you say hi?
Hello, good morning. I hope you will enjoy this series of webinars.
Yeah, and Bas works for the National Agency in the Netherlands, for NAVIC. And if there's any questions related to Erasmus Plus, he'll be here to answer your questions. Okay, let's go to the next slide. So as I said, this is a webinar of a part of a series. Last week we had a first webinar talking about understanding impact. So together we defined what is impact. Today we're going to talk about how then can you define this impact before your application. So we actually take the next step from last week, dive a bit deeper. And in January we have 2 more webinars about monitoring and evaluation of impact and managing for impact. I have a question to you, and normally a poll will show up in your screen, because I'm very curious how many of you who are now in the room were also there last week. So the poll will be launched right now, and you can answer, were you there last week, yes or no? So just to have a bit of an idea.
Very 50-50.
Yeah. Majority of you have responded already. Yeah, I think we can close it. Yeah, so you should be able to see the results on the screen now, and it's nice to see that a bit more than half of you were there last week. Nice, happy to see you back. We hope that this webinar will give you really the next steps, some more details on this impact definition. And also 50% were not there yet last week. So that means you maybe missed this part about how to understand impact. It's okay, we're gonna repeat a little bit of that, and otherwise you can also read it back later on in the handbook, which we will share next. Okay, let's go to the next one. Yeah, so I was talking already about this handbook because these webinars are not standing alone. These are all related to an impact handbook, which was published last year and is available across the Erasmus Plus network in English, but also many other languages. And it has 4 chapters. And as you might guess already, we have 4 webinars, 4 chapters, which mean every webinar links to one of the chapters in the handbook. So my colleague Sam will add also the link to the handbook in the chat. So you can also access it during or after the webinar, and you can read further. So if you missed the first webinar, no worries, you can read back the first chapter about understanding impacts. Great, thank you, Sam. I see it in the chat. Let's go to the next step. So talking about what are we going to do today?
Just a second, Karin. It's just a second. It's coming. Okay, now it doesn't. No, this is wrong. This is wrong.
I've got the right. Well, maybe I can already say about the Zoom rules, because you're all muted. We're with a big group, so we automatically muted all of you to avoid that we have background noise and that we cannot understand each other anymore. So if you want to say something or ask us something, please write it in the chat. Like right now, I'm presenting, and Sam and Bas will be observing the chat. They might respond directly, or we take the question until the end of the webinar. Because we have some time at the end of the webinar to answer all your questions. I see quite some of you already activated your camera. It's very nice if you activate your camera. It's nice to see each other like this. Also, because there will be some breakout groups, and then it's nice if you see the person with whom you will be in the breakout group. There you will be also allowed to unmute so you can talk with each other. So there will be some interaction there. Also, it's nice maybe to see who is here in the room. So you can change your name via the options if you go on your own icon of your screen, or on your or in the participant list. You can change your name. It's nice to see your name, but also the country where you're based and the organization you work for. So if you can do that, that would be very nice. And give a bit of time for that. I already see some changes. I see Belgium, Austria, Czechia, Netherlands. And what other? Ireland, Finland. Nice. Many countries, more and more adding. Yeah. Nice to see. Okay, great.
Sorry, and,
so
and I'm mixing up the whole thing now. Sorry, Karin, just a second. Just give me a but no, but I'm going to stop share and I'm going to do it again. Just a second.
Yeah, maybe the last thing I wanted to share is that this webinar is recorded because we want also to share afterwards. This will be shared by some national agencies on their website. So for those who couldn't attend today, that they can watch back the recording. Yeah.
And in the meantime, I'm getting back. I'm not sure about you all, but this presenter view is something that is a little bit a challenge sometimes. And now I'm really mixing it up. Okay.
Otherwise, I will share the screen, Sam.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay.
No, just a second, because I think I'm there, right?
So what did we do last week? Good for those who were there, hopefully remember this, but for those who were not there, it's maybe good to know what we had talked about last week. So last week we talked about what is impact. And actually our conclusion of that webinar was that every Erasmus Plus project aims to achieve a variety of results, not just one result, but different results and also different levels of results. And we call these outputs, outcomes, and impact. And so the difference is outputs are your direct results, and they're often direct result of your activity. They're mostly often already mentioned as results. But there's much more. There's also outcomes and impacts. And if you want to read more about this, go to the handbook, you will see that. And it really helps to describe these results, especially in the beginning, already before you design your project, because that can maximize the success of your project and contributes also to meaningful and lasting transformation in education or society as a whole to really achieve this impact. Yeah, so now we're going to watch in this webinar how you're going to do it. So objective of today is that you know what steps you can take to define impact in your project design, but also to stimulate you a bit to think of out of the box to achieve your desired impact. Because often we tend to go to the type of activities we're used to do. And then the question is, are these the best to achieve your impact? Or maybe we can think of new activities. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to do that via a series of topics. So we're first going to talk about designing for impact. Then we're going to talk about developing your vision. And then defining who needs to change for achieving impact and then to develop those innovative actions. So for that, I'll pass the floor to Sam.
Okay, and I'll see if I can make it work now. Okay, right.
Sam, we see your presenter view, not the
that is again, that is the case. That what is happening. But okay, anyhow, let's do it in this way. So let's have a look at designing for impact. Now, what is it that you are seeing here? That is a big question. I would like to ask you to share that in the chat box. What do you see? And I'm curious to find out if people are actually thinking about, well, yeah, a pottery. Yeah, wonderful. Creation. Now this is becoming more metaphorical. A clay pot, hands enjoying clay, a whole plate forming. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so beautiful things are being mentioned in the chat box. Well, if you're designing a project, it is very much about doing things. But if you don't have in mind actually who will be using what it is that you produce, you can produce anything, or you will just be producing what it is that you think you like or what may be necessary. But if you think first about, hey, actually, what is it that I would like to achieve with this? Who will be using it? And what will be the situation at the end of having this beautiful pot or plate or whatever it is that you're producing? You may come up with different things. You may think that, hey, suddenly we are triggered and come up with something that we haven't done before, something new that will indeed serve the purpose. So that is also about developing your projects. So project is about having a vision and then trying to see who will be the people who will need, or the actors that who will need to change in order to achieve the vision. And then you will think about, well, what are the products that will help us serve the purpose? So designing is something that you will do on the basis of a vision, and that is actually a kind of metaphorical explanation of what it takes to develop a good project. Now let me have a look at this one. And so this is a project design form, and you will see that there is a number of things there in this design form. At the bottom, at the top, you will see impact, the large change that we would like to be achieving. This may be your vision. There's the effects on society or on individuals, on organizations. Is the highest level change that you would like to bring about by doing a project. Yeah, and that is then actually linked to outcomes, which is very much about the individual or institutional organizational change as of specific stakeholders that need to change in order to make this impact a reality. And then you have at the bottom, you will have the typical outputs that you will need to develop in order to make sure that this behavioral change is actually taking place, that this outcome become a reality. And then underneath, you will see the activities that you will have to conduct in order to make sure that the outputs are being produced. So we will form, Karen has, yeah, and make use of it because we think it is a very useful tool for designing a project in a good way, or at least present the project that you have designed in a systematic manner. Okay, then the next slide is about the fact that we think there are two approaches that will help you define impact. There is an approach that we call approach one, that is also the way we refer to it in the guide. And that approach starts from defining impact. That is the first thing you will do. Yes, and then you reason backwards, a little bit like we said that you could do when you think about the pottery. And so start off thinking about what is the ultimate change you would like to see with the pot, the happy person who's making use of this pottery. And so that is approach one. And approach two is actually a different way of doing it, where you think about, well, and what are the changes that we would like to bring about in our project. Now, with the second approach, we recommend to use that only for the smaller types of projects, the simpler type of projects. But approach number one is a very much more appropriate way of doing it, because it helps you think more creatively and more innovatively about the solutions that you would like to go for in your project. Okay, so let's zoom in on approach number one. These are what we call the steps for defining impact. And it maybe sound like a small repetition, but you start with describing the vision or the dream, the impact that you would like to achieve. Then you go for defining who and what needs to change in order to make this impact a reality. Then you think about the outputs that you would like to achieve, and then you think about doing what it is that you would like to do. So think about your activities. Now, step number 5 is something that is relatively new that I didn't discuss in the earlier slide, and that is checking the logic. So the question would be, if we do our activities, then will our outputs actually become a reality? If the outputs become a reality, then will that actually lead to the change in the outcomes that we have designed for the project? And if we have achieved our outcomes, will that indeed contribute to the dream or the vision that we have developed for ourselves? Now, if any of these questions would be no, for example, you don't produce the outcomes, you don't have the behavioral change that you would like to think, then maybe you have to rethink your project. Maybe you have to do other things or produce other outputs in order to bring about that behavioral change. So checking the logic from activities to impact is a crucial activity for making sure that the project that you design will actually be impactful, that it will achieve the change that you are looking for. Okay, so having said that, you can also refer to that and have a look more at how this would work in chapter 2.1 of the Impact Handbook. Okay. Now, let us have a look here. If we talk about the projects and defining the impact, the first question that you may ask yourself, well, if we're talking about the future, then whose future are we actually talking about? So is it the future of policies or policymakers, or is it the future of society or communities or of schools? What are we thinking of when we talk about this change? And then the next question would be, well, what kind of change are we actually talking about? So is it that an institution is actually becoming much more responsive to the needs of society, or are we thinking about a community that is now in a position to take care of or to be engaged more in all kinds of inclusive types of activities? And what are the changes that we are looking for? And then there's an example here. So some examples that we would like to share here. So if it's organizations, then we may think of, hey, we're talking about high quality education or sustainability in education systems, or maybe European integration in the field of schooling. Yeah, and if you talk about individuals and society, there's then the example maybe individuals and societies have improved employment opportunities and maybe a European mindset. So this could be a real typical vision or an impact that you would like to achieve. Okay, then I'm looking at Karin now because my screen. Ah, yeah, okay, yeah, vision. So if you think about a vision or a mission, then there's a number of criteria that you would like to add to this vision. A vision should be big, or a dream should be big. It should not be focused on tiny things. You want to be very ambitious. And it should also be inspiring. It should make people actually link to what it is that you would like to achieve. People should say, really, oh, wonderful, that is really spectacular. I'm going to help you and support you in making this dream reality. It provides direction. It actually says, hey, oh, that is where we are going. And that is the direction that this project is taking us. Yeah, and it should be uniting. A little bit, the stakeholders around you should say, hey, we're not only joining you in vision, but we're also going to contribute to making this happy. And then the last one here, you should be able to make sure that you can see it. You can see actually in front of you, in your mind, is what this change is actually, what it looks like. And so if we say, hey, it's a dream, I have a dream. I always refer to Martin Luther King when it comes to that. Yeah, and then of course, it should be relevant. It should not be just a dream for you, but it should also be relevant in the sense of, hey, does it link to the Erasmus Plus priorities? Does it link to your organizational policies? Because you may dream, but if your school or institution dreams differently, you have an issue. Yeah, and if your vision is not in line with Erasmus Plus priorities, you may not get the funding that you would like to achieve. And then, of course, yes, you have your target groups or your beneficiaries and their needs. It may need to be, not it may need, but it needs to be relevant for them as well. And so that you have a dream that you can share and that is relevant and that unites people. Okay, I think that sums up the idea of what a good dream or a good vision is all about. Okay. Now we would like to ask you to reflect for yourself and take a few minutes. Maybe you have a pen or mind. Think about what is your dream for your impact, because you're all involved in an Erasmus Plus project or will be involved in an Erasmus Plus project. You may be helping people to develop their projects. So think about what is your dream and look at these guiding questions and write that for yourself, like whose future will change and what will change for them. Write it down for yourself, just a second. Are you all okay? Maybe you do a thumbs up if you have written for yourself what your dream is? Already people are sharing it in the chat box. That's nice. Well, Mary, I think it looks inspiring to me. Lifelong memories and increased self-confidence of students. Wonderful. Okay, more and more people are writing it in the chat box. That's okay. Okay, I think you have all more or less identified for yourself what your dream is and what it is all about. And I see many people making dreams quite big. Yeah, but I think we would like to see we can do this also in group work, so that we discuss the dreams that we are having. So let's have a look there, and rather you sharing it now. But I would like to see if it is possible that we go to breakout rooms, and I'm going to instruct you, give you a little instruction here. Yeah, and so in the group you'll be in groups in a short moment. But the idea is that one of you will share the dream that you are having. So the thing that you have written down or that you already have shared in the chat box. And that people may appreciate the dream and ask questions such as, well, who else may change, or what else may change? How can society even benefit more? And why is this change important? Now, we would like to really focus on the why question. So why do you think this is so important? Because the moment you ask that question, the dream will become bigger, most likely more inspiring. And we will see how that works. So let's do that for a moment. If time allows and you have had one person doing this, then let's see if we can change roles and other people can also share their vision and their dreams. Okay, I'm looking forward to some group work now. Okay, so this is the instruction, just in case. And we will have a 15 minutes in the breakout rooms, and we'll share afterwards a little bit. Bas, wil jij ook bij een groep?
Nee, ik hoef niet bij een groep. Ja.
Yes, Sam, will you talk us through the next step?
Okay. Well, what we would like to see is if you can go to Mentimeter now. Yeah, and Karen has just shared the link, or actually the website and the code where you can enter, but you can also use the QR code to actually to enter into Mentimeter. Yeah, and I think that will then appear. So let's see if you can answer the questions that you'll be having. I see that quite a number of people are already entering. We see more than 50 coming up, and thumbs up also moving. So 60 people are presently there. Yeah, and we see we have lost a few participants after the breakout rooms. We have 156 left. Let's see if we can make it to quite a good number. So 80. Okay, 90. So people are already answering the questions. I can see that you can see the answers coming up, Karin, or almost. Yeah. Okay. So here we are. We would like to see the sharing of these beautiful dreams popping in a moment. So let's see if we can come up with something. Okay. Wonderful. More inclusive education, more equitable, immigrants inclusion in society. Okay. Things come out. Solidarity, connecting young people training for some same jobs in different countries. Okay, we have about 31 now at the moment. 36 people have shared the dream. So have a look at what people are saying. I think it more or less speaks for itself. I hope you find it inspiring also to see what everybody is thinking of. I have a dream that one day there will be more Erasmus Plus projects for democracy. Okay, wonderful. I have a dream of good mental health for all students and teachers. I have a dream, inclusion as a value. I have a dream to reduce the borders of the bubbles people are living in. Okay, wonderful. I have a dream that people understand various cultures and traditions. And I have a dream that I see my students stepping into workshops, companies, and training centers across Europe, seeing how professionals in other countries work, create, and solve real-life problems. I see self-confidence for our students. And I dream to help women with fewer possibilities find their strength, feel welcome and heard, that they can actively participate in society. I have a dream of intercultural understanding. And I have a dream of LGBTQIA acceptance. I have a dream of people with a stutter, to a stronger stuttering associations and awareness in society about stuttering. And I have a dream that we will be able to implement the content of our master program in international policy. Okay, dreams. You're all dreaming big, I would say, which is a great thing to see and great thing to hear. And I'm curious, Karin, at the moment we will do the same thing as we did last time, that we can see we can summarize it. But let's go a little bit further. Yeah, okay, here we go. Sorting the circles from the squares. Let's see. 25 people here are actually saying, hey, we go for more inclusive education. And 14 responses have focused more on community unity, professional development, sustainability, and I see new responses are still coming up. Okay, great. Now, the question was, you did it all together in the breakout rooms and you had this conversation with others. So dreaming is not something that you do alone. So dreaming is something that you do with others, with your stakeholders, with people in your organization, outside your organization. So how was it to dream together? It was dreamy. Okay. I would like to hear an explanation about that one in the chat box, if that is possible. What do you mean by dreamy? Okay. I see nice, fine, engaging, inspiring, fruitful. Nice to hear that it's a common dream across European countries. I like that one. Dreamy is eye-opening. Okay, thank you. Wonderful. To dream is not easy. It is still really abstract. I like that one. Yeah. So people are very much thinking always about what is it that we are going to do. Yeah, but you do things because you would like to achieve change. You would like to make sure that change becomes a reality. Now, what is this change? That is your dream. And so what is it that you really see in front of you? The things that matter to you that you would like to really address. And that is what you are dreaming for, hopefully. So, interesting. Dreaming is interesting. Okay, let's do that. Wonderful. Okay, thank you. I'm going to give it another try with this presenter view. I hope it is okay now, Karin.
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay. So we've been dreaming Huh?
But we have to go back to the pictures. You're a bit too far.
I'm a bit too far. Oh, sorry. Sorry. Okay, yeah. I'm not sure what happened here, but okay. And then here we are. Yeah. So this is what we have done. We're sharing. Okay. These are the pictures that Karin was referring to. Now, if you dream, then dreaming is something that I would say you make a picture in words. Yeah, but it is also possible, especially if you want to inspire other people. It is possible that you actually you make use of artificial intelligence or technology, or artists for that matter, if you have them in your organization, to draw a picture that will represent the idea that you have, this vision that you have, this dream that you have. Now, what you see here on this particular image is something that was done with artificial intelligence for a program that we are engaged in, which is outside of the scope of Erasmus Plus. But this is about bio-based and circular construction. So with a group of 20, 25 people, we developed this dream, and then someone said, I'm going to make a nice picture that will help us understand what it is that we would like to achieve. Yes, what is our dream? Now, and this is the picture that actually emerged from this process, and we thought it would be nice to show this to you because it will help you hopefully bring in others and join and ask them to join you in your movement towards achieving your dream. And so that is the one that we're having. Well, I tried it the other day with asking a very simple question. What can you make a picture of a dream about inclusive education where people of different backgrounds, religious and cultural backgrounds, work together? And I got this image. Now, I'm not so sure inspiring or equally good at visualizing the dream, but it's a very small and very short attempt. So I would like to invite you to think about the options that you have as to move away from words and use pictures to help demonstrate what it is that you would like to, what is the dream that you would like to achieve. Okay. Wonderful. So that is what we were thinking of as the first step. You remember the steps that we were talking about earlier. You start in this approach one, you start with identifying the impact. And then the second step would be to think about identifying. Oh, okay. Karin is starting sharing the screen. Okay, Karin, go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, so now once you have identified your dream or your impact, as we call it, it's nice to take that next step to the outcome. So what is actually needed to change to achieve this impact? So to achieve your dream. And again, I want to refer to this project design form that we talked about earlier in the webinar. When you see that here in the top, you have defined your impact. So if you've written it words, you can write it here. And then the next step is indeed defining your outcomes for staff or students or organizations. So just before we decide about how we're going to define an outcome, I want to check with you. And we're going to have a poll about this as well. So you will get that soon in your screen to check with you if you agree or disagree to this statement. And the statement is behavioral change is always necessary for realizing your impact. So let's see if the poll will launch. Yeah, normally you should see it on your screen right now. Do you agree or disagree to this statement? Yeah. Okay, I think the majority of you has responded. Let's have a look at the answers. So what do you see here? About 73%, so the majority of you says, yes, I agree, behavioral change is needed for realizing impact. But also a third of you, like 27%, so a bit less than a third quarter of you is saying like, no, I don't agree to this. Well, interesting to see, because indeed it's not an easy question. But we do actually believe that behavioral change is needed to realize impact. We believe that people need to do something differently or do different actions to really achieve impact. It doesn't happen just by itself. Yes, maybe sometimes you're very lucky that things happen just by itself, but generally it's really people taking actions and doing that differently. So that's behavior change. So let's have a look at how we can redefine these outcomes. And we have made this visual for that. So here we say you always need to think about a stakeholder or an actor. So who needs to change? Think about who is this person who needs to change, and to define it. Because if you don't define it, it becomes very vague, like policy will be made. Who is making this policy? Or connections are being laid between people. Who's making those connections? So really try to be very specific about this who needs to change. And then what does this actor need to do differently? So that's really the action that person takes as different than before, or maybe something new or doing something differently. And that is the what. So who needs to change and what does this actor need to do differently? So that's the question why. So why this is important for realizing the dream. So you connect this who and the what to the dream. Yeah. So thinking again about your dream, and then who needs to change, and what does this person need to do differently in order to realize your dream. And if you define this, you can write it as an outcome statement. So you get a sentence like, this actor does do this or that differently, so that and that's you will get your dream. Yeah. Maybe this sounds a bit difficult, so let's have a look at some examples that could hopefully clarify these outcome statements. So a first outcome statement is about the dream of a more inclusive school culture. Yeah. So this example, we say that, who, the school teachers, what, they develop new teaching methods so that a more inclusive school culture is enhanced. So your outcome statement becomes the school teachers develop new teaching methods so that more inclusive school culture is enhanced. And I have some more examples. The second one could be the university allocates additional resources for learning actions so that sustainability will be promoted. Or parents belonging to minority groups develop language skills so that they can more easily support the education of their children and their participation is enhanced. Or students participate in exchange programs to learn about Erasmus Plus priority areas so that they can apply this knowledge in their own lives. And last, youth workers attract marginalized young people to practical workshops so that these people are more included in democratic activities. Yeah, so I see a question also, where's the behavior change in these examples? So the change is that they weren't doing that before. So developing these new teaching methods, it's doing something new for them. So they're always been using the same teaching methods. And after the Erasmus Plus activities, they maybe learn something about new teaching methods. But only as soon as they develop new teaching methods, then is something changing. Yeah? So if you can learn about it and have new knowledge maybe acquired, but that is not behavior change in itself. It's like when you take the next step, it's really doing something differently. And in this case, developing new teaching methods. Maybe some would argue it's not behavior change, but I say, yes, they're doing something differently. Yeah, I hope this is clear. And I want to ask you to reflect for yourself also, like reflect back on your dream that you have identified just before, and try to make this outcome statement. So think for yourself, who needs to do something different, and what will they do differently so that. Try to write it down for yourselves, and I'll give you a few minutes for that. And in case you have identified your dream, we'll go back to Mentimeter. So I'll present again the Mentimeter. If you're still in it, you can continue to the next slide. And if you're not in it, let me share my screen again for. You see the majority of you are still in it. That's great. Otherwise, you can join again. I'll add the link again in the chat. And you can share your outcome statements in the Mentimeter.
Please think about the so that part of it, that links your change in behavior to the dream that you had earlier. See if you can make that connection.
Yes, I see the first ones coming in. Nice. Yeah, so what we see, Anna, we see a few dreams coming in. Yeah, you're probably still writing. What I like to see is in the most of the dreams I see, you start, or most of the outcome statements I see, sorry, I should say outcome statements, you really mention first the actor. I see young people, teachers, higher education management, students, trainees, teachers. So I see that, like, for example, this one, implement ethically and lawfully AI. There's no actor yet. So think for yourself, who's doing this? So that would help you to make it more specific. So you see, young people learn to think critically so that they can resist misinformation in the future. Yeah. Trainees go abroad so that their educational experience expanded and their professional skills enhanced. Yeah. Erasmus Plus for me, a bridge connecting my vet education to the wider world. So the outcome statement, or is that still a reflection on the previous experience maybe? Children start to think that their chance and dream can also be abroad, not just in their home country. Workers understand how a small change in their community can have significant environmental, or in their commuting can have significant environmental improvements. Yeah, so here also I want to challenge you. Think of, like, is understanding really doing something differently? Is that behavior change, or is that just like, okay, I understand it, but sometimes I understand, for example, that smoking is not good, and I might still smoke. Or that I might understand that flying is not good for an environment, but I still might take my plane. So understanding is not necessarily a behavioral change yet, So think like, what would be the next step? What would they really do differently? So here might be that workers take more often the train instead of the car, so to improve the environmental. Library professionals and decision makers have the resource to advocate for and make lasting change and serve their users better as a result. Yes, so also there, they have the resources to do it. I would say, yeah, that is more like a direct result. I would say here you can really say they advocate for example, inclusive education, or I don't know what is the topic here. And so that the library professionals and decision makers, they advocate for change in a certain topic. So try to make it really specific. What do people do differently? If they have resources or if they have understanding or knowledge, that's not a behavior change yet, but doing something differently. So this is a difficult step, huh? But I see some nice examples as well.
Maybe a small reflection on something that has been brought up in the chat box, because there was a question about level of what is called abstraction. It may be useful to think of, even if you have so that, for example, so that to reduce risk, cost of training, increase their motivation, you can add another so that. And so then you get two levels or two different levels of change that both may be considered to be part of your dream. So think about so that when we were talking earlier about the dream, we were asking the question, why do you think this is so important? And the more you ask the why question, there's the higher level change your dream will become. And that is, if you call that a level of abstraction, I'm okay, but it helps you think about what it is that you're doing with a much wider and much more profound level of change, preferably even at society level. Yeah, and then you have something that you say, hey, we have a dream, and our dream is big, and we want to make a difference.
Yeah, so, and like, for example, here I see teachers, social workers, school doctors, and psychologists work together with students and parents. Yeah, nice. There we really see something that they're actively doing. Just add the so that, what will it contribute to? And then it will be a very complete outcome statement. Yeah, I hope you get this understanding, and it sounds sometimes easier than what it is. It requires a bit of practice, and that's fine, of course. Most important is to keep in your mind who is doing something really differently, actor and action, and then trying to link it to your dream. And sometimes indeed you have to ask multiple, the why or the so that, so you go a bit deeper. And you can have, of course, you have one dream, which is very often very broad. So be aware, you can also have multiple outcome statements, because maybe multiple changes are needed to realize this dream. It cannot be just one thing. There's maybe that is not realistic. So multiple changes are needed to realize your dream. Yeah? Okay, I would like to keep it, I think, at this for this part. So I'll stop sharing.
Then I'm going to try again, Karen. Let's see if it works this time. Okay,
and otherwise I will share some. It's okay.
Okay, yeah. Is it okay, Karen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay. So anyhow, so we have been talking about first the dream. Yes, then we have been talking about outcomes, and outcomes should be linked to dream. And that's why we asked the so that question, or in your outcome statements. That's your link to the dream. Yes, and we would like to go now towards the part of outcomes to innovative, in between brackets, outputs and activities. Yeah, and well, one of the main reasons why it's important, and we want to encourage you to think first about impact and outcomes, is that it can help open your mind to think about different types of activities that will help you reach your dream, and to think out of the so-called box. So let's try and formulate some ideas for innovative outputs and innovative project ideas, things that we do differently. And we're going to do that in breakout rooms in a moment. So we see if we can discuss again. Yeah, so I would like you to have a look again at the outcomes. We have the outcomes that we have earlier shared, and there are 5 of them. And the idea is that you will, in your groups, you will think about formulating project ideas in relation to the outcomes. So the idea is that you take one of these outcomes in your group, so not all 5 of them, but you pick one that you think, hey, this is very interesting for me, for my project. I would like to discuss that in my little group. So choose one of the outcomes, and then actually think together or brainstorm on actions that may achieve the outcome. And so what it is that you will do in order to make that change a reality. So what will be the corresponding output, or maybe different outputs? Yeah, so think about activities that produce deliverables that will be used by the people, the actors that you are trying to change their behavior. And so, and then later on, we would like you to reflect and put it the action and the output in the Mentimeter. So make a note, yes, of what it is that you'll be discussing. Yes, and then later on we will share it together. So think of try and think of something different than what you are doing already, or something different than you are thinking of at the moment. So, or that you've been doing in the recent past. So Karen will copy the outcomes in the chat, and then she will start the breakout groups. And then after the breakout groups, we would like to share, yes, the action and the output in the Mentimeter. Okay, I hope this is clear. Let us see what will come out now. I'm looking ahead. Here are the breakout rooms. Yeah, and you're being moved there. You might be in different breakout rooms, but that's okay.
How long will this activity be in the breakout?
Again, 15 minutes.
15, okay.
Yeah.
I come back.
Okay.
This is recorded.
Okay, welcome back.
Welcome back, everyone. Very curious what you discussed in your groups.
Karin, sorry, I muted you,
Oh.
Karin. Yeah,
Sorry.
back.
I see
Go
that
ahead.
some people are writing already in the Mentimeter numbers, but please wait before writing numbers. It's nice if you write a number and right away also the action that you discussed, or even action and output. Because only number one is nice to see, but it would be nice to see one and, for example, we organize game-based game activities. So please write number and action in the same response, if possible. Again, number and your response. What activity are you going to do? The Mentimeter link, yeah, I will share it in the chat for those who left it. Or you can also go to menti.com and then use the code 53549636. I'll write it in the chat. Yes, I see. Things coming back. So there was a group that chose outcome number 3. And said, like, we're going to organize accessible language courses with bilingual staff and childcare in parallel. Okay, nice. And this was for outcome. Sam, can you read maybe the outcome then? When I read the...
Yeah. Okay, 3, that is parents belonging to minority groups develop language skills so that they can more easily support the education of their children, and their participation is enhanced.
Yeah. So for that, develop accessible language courses, bilingual staff and childcare. Nice. Then we go to number 5.
Youth workers attract marginalized young people to practical workshops so that these people are more included in democratic activities.
Yeah. And to achieve that, this group says, like, okay, we're going to organize meetings for kids and we're going to create a handbook for the youth workers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe a small reflection here. From the group that I visited, and one was working on 5, and they were saying that actually, okay, now the activities and outputs that we produce, yes, well, okay, yeah. What is it now? The idea is of and is frozen a little bit. Karin, you're back. Yeah. I think. Recording again. Karin, you're there.
Yes, apologies. My Zoom just stopped and restarted.
Yeah, okay. But there you are. Things happen.
Yes. So for outcome 1, there's a group. What was outcome 1, Sam?
School teachers develop new teaching methods so that a more inclusive and European or oriented school culture is enhanced.
Yeah. So to make sure that the school teachers can develop new methods, this group says, okay, we're going to organize trainings, exchanges, events, and job shadowing. Nice. So here also you see multiple activities to achieve one outcome. There's many, so we cannot discuss all of them, but let's, number 3, we haven't had yet, I think. Outcome number 3.
Number 3, parents belonging to minority groups
Oh, yeah.
develop language skills so that they can more easily support the education of their children and their participation is enhanced.
Well, actually did have it, but let's look at here. There's provide free school-based language classes focused on practical communication for school context. For example, understanding homework, communicating with teachers, and a series of weekly language sessions. Okay, and there's another group also works on 3, and he sets shared guided activity. For example, crafts with children and their parents to facilitate language learning by bringing native speakers and minorities together. Another group that also worked on 3 set analysis to identify what they would be interested in, then organize it as a club with coffee, possibility to leave or take care of the kids meanwhile, and create an online training course. So you see how there are slightly different activities to achieve the same outcome. So that is nice to see. And also here, guidance for parents from school classes.
And more on 3 coming. Yeah.
More on 3 coming? Oh, yeah.
And maybe this illustrates already what we were saying earlier, that is that if you have your outcome defined and then you think about activities and you think a little bit out of the box with more people, then you will see that more creative and new ideas are coming up that will achieve your outcome. And so it is good to start with your outcome first and then see what kind of things you can come up with in the sense of activities. And this, I think, is a nice illustration for that.
And that's exactly the reason why we say if you start with your impact in mind, then go to outcomes, and only then think about your activities and outputs, you have more different things to come up with. Often it's easier, Often we start with the activities because it's easier. It's like, okay, let's go organize this training again because we're used to give training, so we're going to organize the training again. And then only later on we see what it contributes to. Or we assume it will contribute to something. But maybe this training is not the right activity for really achieving your results and your outcomes and your impact.
Maybe react to a question asked by Silke, who said, "Could you explain again the difference between activities, actions, outputs, and deliverables?" Yeah, very simple words. An activity is what you do, yes, and an output is what you produce. So with the activity. So the deliverables are the concrete things that you have in place after you have done the activities. That is the most simple explanation. Thank you for asking the question, Silke.
Yeah, and I'm also adding again the link to the Erasmus Plus Impact Handbook for those who joined a bit later today. This handbook really describes all those differences between impact, outcome, and outputs. And again, we often think about activities and outputs, so the direct results, but these real outcomes and impact we tend to forget or only define later. Yeah? Okay. Then let's go to the last part in this webinar, which is mainly to wrap up, to summarize what we have discussed right now. So this is again what we just said, like you have the activities, outputs, outcomes, and impacts. And there's 2 approaches, but mainly we emphasize try to use approach 1, starting from the impact, reasoning back to what then can we do. And then maybe you come to activities that are very new or innovative for your organization that could even better help to achieve your impact. Some tips. If you use this approach 1, some tips what you can do per each step. So in the first step, it's about this vision or dream. We always say, discuss it with stakeholders, with different types of stakeholders, and don't do it alone. You can organize a workshop for it, or it can be online, it can be also face-to-face. And like some showed, you can make an image of it. We ask so often people to draw, what would it look like, your ideal future, this ideal dream. And then as a second step, then thinking about the outcomes, then think about all the people, all the stakeholders that need to change to make your dream a reality. And it can be multiple ones. That could be teachers, students, parents, and maybe you have 3, 4, 5 different stakeholders, and maybe all of them they need to do something differently. So you have different outcome statements that you can make. Then the third step is to determine your outputs that will change the behavior of your stakeholders. So what is needed to be there so that the outcome can actually happen, so that people can change their behavior. So if I need to indeed choose the train instead of using the car when I go to work, maybe I need to have the knowledge of that it is indeed that much better to take the train instead of the car. Or I need to have that the train becomes more attractive for me in terms of money, that the train is for free instead of the car. So different things can be there in place so that I can change my behavior. That's the output. And then 4 is like, what activity will you do? So will you organize training for people to become more aware or more skilled about things? Or will you do some influencing to policymakers? Or will you write handbooks and make websites? Think of that. A lot of activities are possible. And then last, don't forget it, check if it works. Because you went through all these steps, then you have this logic, as we say. But check if it works, if it's indeed logic. If you do in these activities, if indeed the outputs change, and then your outcomes and your impact. Yeah. So our key message from this webinar is, so integrating impact into your project development starts from the very first design of your project. So don't think of it later, but start from the very first design. And you can do this via 2 different approaches. We mainly discussed the first one in this webinar, defining your impact first, and then behavioral changes that are needed, and then deliverables and activities. You can also do it differently once you have already activities. So maybe you're already in a project and you're like, but what are we actually contributing to? You can also do it the other way around, and from your activities, think like, what would it lead to in terms of behavioral changes and impact? So this is the end of the webinar, but we still have some time for Q&A. And I see also some questions popping up in the chat. Maybe Sam, would you like to take the questions?
Yeah, I would like to share this, because there's 3 things that have come up now, and if more questions are there, then also please add them there. I see Victor asking a question saying, would the outcome statements be the same as the general or specific? No, I'm going first. Sorry, Victor. I'll go first to the question of. No, let's go for Victor. Yeah, would the outcome statements be the same as the general and or specific objectives of work packages in the KA2 project? Yeah. I think I'm going to check with Bas if that is really the case, and Bas, please correct me if I'm wrong, but usually specific objectives are outcomes. So that in that sense you can use that outcome statement and present it there. But mind you, if we say so that, then that is already part of the impact, and the so that part comes to the impact. But the behavioral change definitely is something that you would like to see at the outcome level, and then a specific objective. Bas, am I correct?
Yeah, you are correct, but then with the addition that you try to keep the outcome statements as close to your project as possible. So don't rely on the generic outcome statements that the Commission provided.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Maybe what I can add here, in the previous webinar, we also discussed this, like that impact is often related to these specific objectives or of the projects or the Erasmus Plus horizontal priorities. So there's different priorities, and you can always link to that, so that you don't have to start very broad. You can always take that as a start for your impact definition.
Yeah. But I like the thing that you have your project, think about your outcomes, and think that is the key message here. So and the work package is nice, but it's your outcome. So then Asia is asking, when a project is a follow-up, next step, the first step, a vision dream might need another approach, more like affirming the dream adjusted together. I think your dream evolves, so make sure that your dream in a way reflects the thinking of that particular moment, of this particular moment, if you do a dream. So a new project, a new dream with new stakeholders, new actors, make it work for you, and bring it as a kind of moment where you will be bringing everybody together and align them with each other towards a beautiful new dream. Okay? And then Nestle, most of the project involve more than one partner. Do we need to define different outcomes for each involved partner, or is it expected that they will share the same goal? Okay, interesting, because I think there's a difference between a partner and stakeholder behavior. So if you work with a partner, you will define together who are the stakeholders that you will together try and change their behavior. So you may work with a partner to try and see if students develop skills. Well, yeah, you both have to agree to the fact that you will be working on this together. But it's not an outcome for the partner; it's an outcome for the stakeholders that you or the actors that you would like to change. So in that sense, and then of course you hope and you trust that working with partners, you will share definitely the same dream, yes, and you will share the same outcomes. But then maybe in different countries or in different schools. Okay. That was Nestle. I hope this is an answer to your question. And then Dorothy, I have a simple question. I'm about to take a mobility trip abroad in another language country with 2 groups of students. Language and non-language students. Do I design different outcomes for different groups? Okay. Yeah. Well, if I would say, if you have 2 different groups and you expect different types of behavior of these groups, of different skills that they develop, yeah, then maybe it is useful to think about different outcomes. But if you say roughly they have the same, they have to develop the same skills and the same behavior, then maybe one outcome would be enough. But I always think it is good to consider not your group of students as a homogeneous group, but to think of it as a group of different subgroups that may have different outcomes aligned, but maybe a little bit different, so that you can also tailor your activities specifically for each of these subgroups. And then it becomes a much more effective and impactful project. Dorothy, I hope that was an answer that is helpful to you. Okay, maybe if you have other questions, we are still here and ready to answer any question that you may be having about designing for impact. And in the meantime, lots of thank yous. So that's also nice. And lots of thumbs up, which is also nice. Okay.
Well, then I think, there's one more question popping up. Do you know any other approaches, methods of designing impact?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Think about theory of change, but we're not going to discuss that here, but think about theory of change. That's another one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look up informational theory of change, we also have booklets from the MDF. If you go on our website, we can maybe write the website in the chat, and you'll find their booklets on theory of change. It's also a way of designing impact. Nice to see all the thank yous. Well, very nice. And also already see some people saying, see you back in January. Happy to hear that, because indeed, we have had the first 2 webinars. These are first 2 were mainly about what you do before you implement your project. And then 3 and 4 are more like during your project, how do you monitor and evaluate impact, and how can you manage for impact? So 20 and 27 January, we will have these webinars again, and looking forward to see you there. Bas, do you still want to add something or say something?
No, I think it was nice. I added a link to the second version of the series of toolkits that we're developing, and in that document you will see some of these tools developed and written out in relation to Erasmus+, so that might be an interesting document still to look at. And lastly, a lot of the materials are also available in other languages. So if you go to the website of the Impact Tool, you will find different language versions of the guides there, and that might help you in getting a better understanding of all the technical terms in your own language environment.
Okay. Thank you. In the meantime, people are leaving. So thanks all of you for joining today. And indeed, see you in January. And I see people also referring to Christmas already. So in return, already have a nice and good Christmas and a good start already. It's still November, but already a good start of 2026. Okay.
Thank you
See
all
you.
for being here and for being so active. Thank you. See you in January. Oh, snow in Finland. Nice.